everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at 7 fairly odd, fairly different games. Some good, some not so good. Some really weird stuff in here, so we're going to go through these 7 reviews. Let's get started. Let's start with cookies battles. Who doesn't like cookies? Well, I guess some people, but cookies are amazing. This is a game that comes at a 10. I don't mind in this case because it is a game with, it's about cookies and a cookie tin. That's fine. In this game, you're going to grab cookies from the cookie jar. Try to get as many as you can. Some points. Here's how it plays. The first thing you'll do is you'll shake this up. You'll shake all the cookies and then pop off the lid of this tin. And okay, now I can see some cookies. So now on my turn, I take a cookie. That's it. Of course, the cookie I take has to have no other cookies on it. So this one here, you can't take. So I'll take this one. Ooh, what did I get? Well, this one here, I'll look at my little reference sheet here. This says, well, that's a Spanish reference sheet, so let's try the English one. This one says, do I not have the English reference sheet with me? All right, the first thing we will do is we'll take it and shake it, then pop the lid off here. Here are the cookies. I can take any cookie I want as long as no other cookies are on top of it. So I can't take that one, but I'll take this one. Why? Because this cookie's worth an extra point. Then maybe I'll take this cookie. Does it have a thing on the other side? No. It's just 1 point, this cookie. I don't want that cookie. Let's take this one. Oh, this has some symbols on it. Don't worry. There's a little thing here that says exchange all my cookies with all the cookies belonging to a player of my choice. Oh, well, that's not quite as fun here. Now, this one's double. It's funny because I thought these were larva eggs. That means I get to pick another cookie or steal or give one of your cookies to somebody else or steal a cookie from someone else. They have 2 sides. Sometimes there's nothing on the other side. There's some ordinary cookies in here. Anyway, you keep doing this till the cookies are gone. Count up your points. Each cookie's worth a point, but some are worth bonus points. And whoever has the most points is the winner, gets to keep the game, and has to make a vow never to bring it out again. What a piece of trash this game is. You're literally just grabbing a cookie and doing something random. The only thing that makes this different than a deck of cards where you grab one is here sometimes you have a choice to grab a good cookie or a bad cookie or an unknown cookie. Always take the good cookie, then take the unknown cookie. But stealing cookies, swapping cookies, this is just, it's nonsensical and it's not good. I like how it looks. The production's fine, but this is a 4 out of 10. Touch It is a game in which you are touching the bottom of cards, feeling the ridges. You know, some things, some print has embossed, and you can feel it. Ooh. So here you're trying to feel it and figure out what the shape is. There are 3 different versions of these, and I've seen them all. So let's take a look. As I said, you can see the other versions here, but today we're going to take a look at this one here, the sea creatures. So each player is going to get a card. You'll have this card in front of you, and you can see the 4 images here, and you're feeling some raised indentions on the back, trying to figure out what it is. I think this is the one with the eels. Not even close. This is the ray. Let's try this one here. This is Nemo. No, the ray again. I literally just felt it twice in a row. Let's try this one. Starfish. Man, oh man. Anyway, it's hard to show you on here, but there are some raised indentations on these. Now, the only weird thing about this particular set is you'll see there's a mermaid on here, but it's actually a dugong, which is similar to a manatee here. And I don't know, it just seems kind of weird. They're like, hey, people thought these were mermaids. For a while, I thought there was a misprint. I was like, what? And then I read the flavor text down here. Anyway, the first person to get it gets 2 points. Everyone else who gets it correct within 30 seconds of that gets a point. First person to 7 points wins. You can also play cooperatively. The problem with Touch It is it's very one note. I don't have a problem with the game itself. Feeling the bottom of the card, it's interesting, and it's way harder than you might think. You might think I was pretty bad in that scenario, and I was kind of just quick winging it, but you can feel it. You can feel as long as you want, according to the game rules, but once someone calls it, then everyone else has 30 seconds. It's neat. Like it's a fun parlor trick. It's fun to have at home and pull out for a one-time game. I just don't see people playing it 2, 3, 4 times. I see you playing it once, and then bring you out when you have guests over to show them an interesting game. So I'm okay with any kind of game that's tactile like this, but I don't know that I could really recommend people get it. Nice little stuff involved here, but this is a 6 out of 10. It's fine for one time or twice, and that's about it. That's touch it. We're taking a look at a very unusual game here called Winston 1984. So this is based on the very famous book 1984 and the character of that Winston. This is a solo game, a solitaire game. This is 15 minutes where you're going to be rolling dice and you're taking Winston Smith on a walk. He's just going to walk around and try to avoid the authority by rolling dice. Let's take a look. In this game, you're trying to get the highest score that you possibly can. You're doing so by walking Winston through this neighborhood. You're going to pick a difficulty level. One difficulty level. The lowest gives you an extra round. Otherwise, you have 8 rounds to get through. Each round, you're going to roll these dice. Placing these dice up here, you can see the different numbers. And then, one at a time, you're going to place these dice in any order that you want on these colors, but you have to follow some rules. So, for example, the red die, when you put the red die out, it turns to the lowest value of another die, which means I can't place the red die first. So, the green die, when I place the green die, I must roll that many dice that match this number here. So, I need to re-roll 4 dice. Well, fortunately, I can do that. There's 4 dice to roll. But if you don't have 4 dice to roll, then you can't place the dice. So sometimes you'll be in a situation where you can't place dice. So now I've done that. And now I can place the red die, which matches it to the lowest value. So the red die now turns to a 4. The purple die flips a die, and it's another one to the other face. So 4 turns to 3, and I turn this 4 to a 3. The white one changes another die to this one here. So I can change another die to the 6 here. Oh, that's not bad. I'll turn this green one to a 6. The yellow, when I put this here, will send the die in position 4 to room 101. I don't have a die in that position. Actually, I should, because the white should be there. So this gets sent over here. That seems like a bad idea to have done. And then the blue die removes a die that's a higher value than this one. And you can't remove this yellow one. So I get rid of that one. Oh, well. So then you add all these, subtracting this one, and that's how far you move. Where you land might remove a die for next turn or might remove your highest die, depending on the difficulty level you have. Also, if you're playing at an extra difficulty level, you have to go through this extra area over here. And when you get to the end, you're going to score based on the Golden Country, how many times Big Brother hit you, how many rounds it took you. You get a subtotal, and there's a bunch of different scoring, and then you end at the end. And you see how high your score was and try to beat it for the next time. There's a little bit more going on to it than that, and honestly, I just kind of quick showed you how the different dice work. That was probably a very non-efficient way to have done it. On the back of the book, it kind of reminds you of what each of the dice do, and sometimes you're going to have a situation where you can only play 3 of the dice or something because of the way the dice came out. But that's kind of how you play. Winston's an unusual game. This is such a strange game for me to talk about because there's lots of games in which you manipulate dice, and Winston, for me, is a really hard one to come down to any sort of like finality on what I think of my final rating. I think I have to end up like on a 6.5 or something to that effect. Because there's some interesting ideas here. It's like you're moving around the sidewalk. You're rolling dice. And then, so you roll the dice and you look at them and you go, okay, big numbers are better usually because I want big numbers and one small number. The small number is one I subtract from the big numbers. Okay, that's the basic concept. And I also, once you play on the higher levels, don't want to land on security. Fine. I want to get there in as few turns as possible. Because I guess if you don't get there, you lose. But then, which die do I put out first? So if you think about it, there are 6 dice, and you can't play a couple of them right away. So your first option is one of 4 options. So you'll pick that die and do that, but then that will change something else, which then kind of branches out. And so like the one die that lets you re-roll other dice. If you roll a 6 on that, you can't even use that die because there's not 6 other dice. But if you use the purple die to flip that die, now it's a 1 and you can re-roll 1 die. But if it's a 2, it's such a weird thing. Now the theme, I don't think the theme's really in this game at all. You know, there's the authority, don't land on cameras, 1984. But it's a puzzle. It's just not particularly satisfying as a puzzle in some ways. In some ways, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. But I don't know. I'm like, as I'm moving, the first time I moved, I was like, am I moving fast enough? I don't know. I don't know what my average number is. And then I would get a final score, and I was like, well, is that a good score? Is the perfect score 1,984 points? There's like every time you mess up and land on the authority, you mark off the big brother cards, and that's good. That gets your score higher. I mean, you don't want to lose. So I just find it to be almost a little incomprehensible. It almost feels like a work of art and a logic puzzle that's a pretty tough little logic puzzle, I think, but without any real strong end goals. So I'm glad this game exists. It's an interesting, unique thing. I'm just not 100% sure I can recommend it. Happy Garden is a game about placing out flowers, a very pretty little game. There's a lot of games now where you're placing flowers, and here your flowers are going to activate other flowers, just like they do. Get rid of moles, do butterflies, wheelbarrows. Here's how it plays. In this game, each person's going to have a little house here that shows their color. Ooh. So you build the house, put your color creature on it, and you're going to have 2 different flowers that you'll start with next to your board. This is a board that you're going to be pulling tiles off of. So on your turn, you'll take a tile off here and put it adjacent to one. The other tile will fall down, and you then will add another tile in that spot. If the tile you take has a butterfly, you'll put a butterfly on the tile. If it has a worm, you put a worm on the tile. And if it has a wheelbarrow token, you'll get a wheelbarrow. At the beginning of every round, you'll turn over the top one of these symbols. Nothing happens this round, but this is a way to keep track. When you get to the watering can, the game is over. You're never allowed to put the same exact color next to something and shape. So this is the same color and shape. I can't do that. But what I can do is I can put the same color and the same shape next to a flower. And if I do, I validate that flower, which will turn it over. And you can see this one's worth a point at the end of the game. To validate one of these gnomes, you need to have all 3 colors next to that. So orange, pink, and purple. And I'll turn that guy over, and they're worth 3 points. To validate a windmill that you put down, you just need to have 3 of the same shape in that row, and then you'll be able to turn over that. And so that's kind of what you're doing over the course of this game, trying to validate stuff as you place it out. You want to validate one with an earthworm on, because then you send a mole to someone else's, which gives them a negative point. Butterflies are worth point. These wheelbarrows can be used to grab the top thing in a row if you want that instead of the bottom. You can see the wheelbarrow symbols there. And at the end of the game, you're just going to do that. Whatever color you are, those will give you extra points for having validated flowers of that type. And sometimes these will give everybody something. Hey, everyone gets a worm, everyone gets a wheelbarrow, something like that. And whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, production-wise, this is from FunForge. FunForge makes good production here. I mean, this is like one of the most cheerful covers you'll ever see. It's Happy Garden, and that works. There's a few aspects of this game I just don't like. Like if you complete a tile, send a mole to someone else. Thanks. If you complete a tile with a mole on it, send that mole to someone else. The butterflies. I found that the extra stuff is confusing. Basically, it's just I'm taking a tile and trying to put it next to these other tiles to activate them. And if I have these, a flower of the same type and a flower of the same color, I activate this flower. A gnome and the wheelbarrows are activated, the windmills are activated differently. I just don't think there's anything particularly compelling here. This is one of the rare games, on the box here it says it is 30 minutes. It's about that. But it's one of the rare games that ends and you're like, I could have used a few more turns. It doesn't have a whole lot of points in it. You feel like you don't have a lot of options on your turn. The wheelbarrows are amazing because they give you 6 things to pick from instead of 3. And it's fine. It's pretty. It works. But it doesn't ever... I don't think anyone's going to play Happy Garden and be like, ooh, I want to play that again afterwards. And that's not necessarily the mark, I think, of a game that I want to recommend. So this one, it's fine. It's functional. It works. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I like the idea of putting out the tiles. Like I said, the moles, it feels like a weird little take that aspect that doesn't work as well. But it's amusing a way to pass time. It's just not memorable at all. So that's Happy Garden. In the Ashes is a very different thing. This is from Devere, the folks who make big games. This is a role-playing game in a book for a single person. On the back here, it's a tabletop action role-playing game. It lets you play in a book, and you're going to do combat in this book. You need this book and a pencil. So that brings me to, before I show you the book, this brings me to a really weird feature. So when I played this, I was like, I'm not marking this book. So I got a whole bunch of scratch paper and marked on scratch paper what's in this book. But as I got farther and farther, I felt like my scrap paper started looking like the ravings of a madman. But this book is so nice. I hate to write in it because I don't want to have to buy this book again to do it. That feels a little wasteful. So I wish there was a way around that. Or like, because a lot of these game books that I read, you keep your stuff on another sheet of paper. In this one, you're actually writing in the book. I'm going to show you a bit of what's inside here, and we'll be right back. I'm going to do my best to not spoil too much of this book for you. But in the Ashes here, which is a book with many pages, it's 241. In fact, the last few pages of this book give you a summary of the rules. But what the book does is it gives you a tutorial. It starts with a prologue, and sometimes it will come to a certain thing here. So, for example, there's some people here. You can move around and talk to these different people, and it will tell you what they, if you listen to someone, you might mark something. If I listen to this person, I go to page 26, and I mark something on that page that might come into play later on. But what's going to happen is eventually you're going to get into fights. And when you get into fights here, this is a beginning tutorial fight. You're going to be moving on this map, the enemy here, which is some mushroom that you're going to fight. But you're going to be picking, there's like a set of cards. Now this is a beginning one, so there's only a 2x2 grid. But eventually you'll have a 3x3 grid. And whenever this happens, you are going to be picking something from these different columns. And you're trying to kind of find a puzzle to pick the right thing that you're going to do from each column. And then the enemy will do something. Then you pick again different things. The enemy will do something, and so on. You're keeping track of their hit points, keeping track of your hit points. You can be defeated and lose. But that is, again, kind of the vast majority of this book, going through these different combats. You'll get different items that will help you. And you can see as time goes by, you're going to have much bigger charts to go through. But again, you're picking something from the different columns for the combat. I really don't want to show you too much more, but that is how the game plays. So it's a translated story, I'm pretty sure, but I think it works pretty well. Realize that it is a dark story. At the very beginning of it, the very first paragraphs, you are a child watching another child being burned at the stake. That's a pretty dark start to this. As it goes through, though, it's just it goes back and forth, and you're going to be flipping back and forth through the book, and running different characters maybe, and it's not as there's a lot of story, there's a lot of content here in this box, but it's mostly about those missions. So I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, I think the art and the way the book's laid out is incredible. Devere always does a very good job. I like that a lot. Combat is super, super puzzly. Like if you've ever played Gloomhaven, Gloomhaven's kind of a puzzle style combat where you have a hand of cards and you're playing combos of these cards to do things. But there's also luck involved in that combat. There's no real luck here usually. And when I'm like, okay, I'm going to move to attack 3 and disarm, but the next turn I'll do this, that, and this. And to the point where like, is there an optimal solution? The thing is, I think there probably is an optimal solution, and that doesn't sit well with me. That's how role-playing games, to me, work, where there is the best way to go through, and I hope I'm the one to figure it out. I don't want to sit and look at these pages for 20 minutes to go, and that's the combo that I'm going to do. I didn't mind the story. I thought the story was fine. The combats I found to be, like I said, more like solving a puzzle than anything else. There was also some other things in here. I think at the very beginning, they're like, hey, here's a phrase. If you ever find this phrase, then do this. And I'm like, I got so excited about that. I still haven't found that phrase. Maybe I missed it. Maybe something. I also thought the game gets, pretty hard as it goes through, which again is not necessarily a problem. And it definitely has skew points. So I can applaud this book. I don't think it's necessarily for me. And I'm not even sure that's because of the RPG book nature of it, because I've done these before and I like them sometimes. But I think because this one was just so puzzly. See, I've seen the other extent. I just recently played one where everything felt random. I was like rolling dice and I died. I'm like, well, maybe next time I'll roll better. But this one feels very deterministic. So again, though, this is a work of great quality. So I like it a lot. So for me, it's only a 6. I've found it very interesting. I don't want to recommend it much more than that in that sense. But if you like this and if what you've seen kind of catches your fancy, DeVere put out a fantastic product here in the ashes. Jakarta Traffic here. This is a delivery game from Spiel the Game from Simon Schmeider. And this is a game about, being in Jakarta and getting around and delivering stuff. But also, don't let your phone run out of battery. Hit too close to home. If it, there's a soundtrack that comes with this that you can listen to the sounds of Jakarta with some, kind of ambient music mixed over that. I did for a while. It was fine. But this is a game in which you're trying to find the optimal path to deliver stuff. Let's take a look. In this game, you have these different tiles out here. You have charging stations, which are triangles. You have delivery spots, each of them, which is marked with a square, and then there's a different type. And then order locations, which are circles, and you have different things that people are ordering. This is going to have to do with this chart over here. These are the different orders or deliveries. Let's say you're dropping someone off at a spot that you're going to have, and this one needs to go to this spot, this one needs to go to this spot, and these 3 need to go to this spot. Although, as the game progresses, these are going to move up, and these are going to kind of move around like that. Players each have a tile, and at the beginning of your turn, you have 2 options. You can take a tile on the board, and that nothing's on, and you can rotate that tile. Once you rotate it, you'll put a marker on it to keep someone else from rotating in the future. Or you can take a tile that you have and replace the tile that's out here. Now this is going to change these paths around the board. You have your little motor scooter. So this motor scooter is here at the parking spot triangle. But I can leave from here and go all the way over to this tile. I can go down to these tiles. Or I can leave from this spot and, go one spot. So I might want to move this tile because you can see if you move and connect stuff, especially if you get to these outside areas in the board, you can go really far, crossing bridges and get to things. Essentially what you're doing is you're moving around the board. You're going to be picking up orders. You're going to be placing these orders on your board. Of course, picking up and dropping off orders requires energy. So if you stay in the same spot as someone else, you can both get energy because you're just chatting. Or you can stop at a recharging station to get them up there. But as you pick up the different orders and you're dropping them off in different spots, you're going to get stars. And once someone has 4 stars, the game's going to end. And then people are going to count up their points. And there's a few other things that are happening here, talking to other players, and there's different modules. But that is essentially it. You're going to have a board that kind of gives you the things that you can do. You can switch tiles or rotate a tile, and then you're going to move around the board. There's just various events and things can happen. There's different modules and different pieces that can be played. There's even a pair of dice that you can roll where you're like, I'm just going to detour, and you can roll this, but the problem is you are then stuck at the tile that you go to if you can't find a way to get there, although a 6 lets you go anywhere you want. So that's pretty much it. When someone makes 4 successful deliveries, it's going to trigger the end of the game. You'll count up your points, and whoever has the most is the winner. There's a lot of games that are this, metro style with all these bands. I don't know why. This is what I found amusing. Sometimes I'm like, wow, look, if I take this route here, I go woo, 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 all the way over here. I like that. But the thing is, this game is a pick up and delivery game. There's a bit of chaos in it. You might not realize, but there are ways to change, I might be like, ooh, this is the thing that needs to be delivered over here, and it's going to give me the highest amount of stars, and someone else can mess that up on their turn, change, the value of what needs to go, and sometimes where it needs to go to. What this game's going to come down to is it's a puzzle. On your turn, you're looking at it and saying, okay, I can put this tile I have in my hand out and replace the tile on the board, or I can take a tile and rotate it. You just can't unrotate or move the tile that the last person put out. Fine. That can be very analysis paralysis inducing for many people. Some people are going to stare at this board for a really long time. Take that out of the equation, play with people who are not going to stare at the board a long time, and I find this to be a game that I liked. I found the theme to be endearing. I like the idea that you spend, phone charges, and at some point, you got to go charge your phone. I like the idea of going around and following these paths through the city. The city changes. There's a nighttime side. There's 6 little modules with police and fire departments and things like that. I don't think you need. I think the base game is fine. It looks like a fairly complicated game with the symbology. That's probably a little ding against the game. But at the end of the day, it's how do I get from point A to point B the most efficiently? Can I do it right now, or do I take a turn here and the next turn go there? And then even then rolling the dice to decide where to put something, I think works really well. It's good quality. This does not look like a game that you're just going to find a very small print run of. I mean, it looks, when I met the folks making it, seems small, but it has the look of a well-produced game. It's a theme that's not talked about a ton, and I found it to be enjoyable. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. That's Jakarta Traffic. Tiny Laser Heist was posted all over Facebook ads. The idea of you have these strings as lasers and you're going in with these funny little hands and grabbing gems and getting them out without popping the lasers appealed to a lot of people. It definitely appealed to me. I backed it based on that alone. So that's what this game is. It's these lasers, go in and grab the gems out with tiny hands. Here, look at it. You're going to build a framework and put it on the table, and you have these lasers that you'll stretch out. Now, these lasers are a little tense, but I mean, if you push them too much, they'll pop out, which is triggering the laser. And so, or just shooting it across the room like I just did. So there's little hooks on the sides here where you can attach these lasers. And let's see if I can get this one down here. There we go. Okay. You're going to put some jewels down in the bottom. These jewels are going to have padlocks on them, different colors that you'll pull from a bag. Players will have a handful of cards. One person's the heist master, who has to wear this mask until everyone gets tired of wearing it. And then the heist master is going to pick a heist that they're going to do. Now, the heist is the number of locks on a jewel, is the number of money cards you'll get for succeeding. And these money cards, ooh, this one's worth 2 million. That's worth 1 million. That's worth nothing. So they're going to have to split these. And to do a heist, if I want to do this one here, I'm going to need a pink lockpick and a yellow lockpick. So you may have to ask other players to help you. You'll need them. And then each player will take a hand. But before the players try to get the gems, they have 90 seconds to do so, other players can play cards, force someone to cover one of their eyes, make them, you can't go through one of the walls. Here I can get extra time. And there's just negative cards you can play on someone else. And then the players are going to, using these hands, they're going to remove the lockpicks, and they're going to have to set the lockpicks on top of another one of these without, again, triggering any of these lasers. If you drop the lockpick, you have to pick it up and put it back on top of the gem. Once the gem is free, you'll then take that gem and you are going to place it in this device outside. Now, you might be wondering, why are you not showing this? Because I'm terrible at this game. We have played a live version of this game where you can watch it on the dice tower, but that's how it's going to work. Once the heist is over, you'll take money cards from the pile equal to the number of locks on it, if it happens. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most money wins. The end of the game will happen when you run out of cards. As a toy, I like Tiny Laser Heist. There are some issues I have with the toy factor of it, and that is that the game kind of needs to be raised and you need to be standing while playing it. If you can find a standing table or a counter, maybe I think the game is a lot easier. If, as it is on a table where you're constantly going down and coming up, it's very, very difficult. It is a difficult thing to do. It's difficult, as you saw in my kind of quick overview, for me to do it when I was controlling both hands. When I'm controlling one hand, you're controlling another. A third person controls another. One of my eyes is blind. We're not allowed to go in through the top or what have you. That makes it trickier. As a toy. As a game, Tiny Laser Heist is terrible. I'm really kind of mind-boggled at this because they're missing the point of this. The point of this game is use these hands, get the gems out, get a reward. That works. You need nothing else for the game to be good. But they were like, but what if we have variable amounts of money that is handed out at the end? Who thinks that's fun? Like if we triumphantly cheer and get them out and then I get a 0 money card, I want to flip the table. What is the reasoning for that? And the idea at the beginning where you need the different color locks to get them, that's kind of taken from, Sid Saxon back in the day. I'm the boss has that sort of thing. But it doesn't matter here. Everyone else is then playing negative cards. There's no disincentive to play negative cards on you. Every round you play negative cards because you'll draw back up. So there's always these things. And like I said, the game's hard enough. Sure, have these cards in later on. Like, well, you're pretty good at getting these gems out. So now do it with one of your eyes covered. Okay, that makes more sense. But to start out the gate with that, to start out the gate with just seeing people fail and fail and fail and fail, which I have seen in the games I played, where it's it's funny to watch, but a spectator sport is not necessarily why I'm buying Tiny Laser Heist. This one kind of astounds me. I'm not going to give it lower than a 4 out of 10. It's pretty bad, but I will keep it at least as high as a 4 because the game itself is, while it's awful, the toy that fits together pretty well. It's kind of a pain to get apart, but it fits together really well. How the lasers fit in is a neat system. It's just cool, and it's a nice little set piece that you have out there. But beyond that, I really, really don't think you should get it as a game. So that's Tiny Laser Heist. And that is it. 7 games. Jakarta Traffic is the best of them. Although I gotta say, I think the one that impressed me the most is this book, In the Ashes. So anyway, if you have different thoughts on any or all of these games, let me know in the comments. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching 7 odd reviews here on the Dice Tower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.